Today, we're just going to focus on Wi-Fi security, particularly in the area where our existing flagship product, our HotSpot gateway, how we can add value to address some parts of the wireless security. So we're going to talk about the top threats and common mitigations, and also what are the challenges in today's mitigation against the wireless security threats, and particularly in the area of the balance in between security and usability or convenience, and elaborate on areas that we can add value to address today's wireless security threats. So Wi-Fi has been there for more than 20 years and the technology has evolved. There's a lot of enhancement in terms of speed and reliability, and Wi-Fi security has been top concern, especially in the early days when customers started to use it. Then as the technology evolves, there are more security technologies adding in to address some of the concerns. It's getting much better now, but in general, the security mitigation options is a little bit lacking behind the speed or performance of the Wi-Fi evolution. So the top wireless attacks has always been data security, or rather concern on people hacking, cracking, or sniffing the information transmitted over the air, because there's no physical boundary, there's no physical restriction on who is sniffing and watching over my connection. So it has always been a concern. In the early days, there's a lot of issues, especially using WEP, weak Wi-Fi encryption. But today it has evolved to have a lot better, a lot more advanced WPA2 and WPA3 with AES encryption and all that. So that largely addressed data information security concern, or rather data connection encryption. WPA is primarily concerning about Wi-Fi connection encryption. It doesn't really address much of identity, or rather making sure who is there to connect to the Wi-Fi is the next thing we're talking about later. The other major concern for Wi-Fi security is the denial of service, which typically come together with evil twin or ROC AP attack, especially in the public Wi-Fi like airport Wi-Fi or some large enterprise Wi-Fi environment. When an attacker wants to hack into their network, you will place AP in there near. It doesn't have to be in. It can be near their premise. Then they started pumping a lot of signals, and to jam up the Wi-Fi signals creates a lot of interference so that the users are unable to connect to the legitimate AP. Then you will put another ROC AP in this nearby place that is broadcasting very strong signal near to the user. Then without users being noticed, they will connect into the ROC AP. And because the ROC AP will be broadcasting the same SSID, the user device will automatically connect to whichever has the best performance, the least congested AP. Then once the user connects to it, then they will start to do a lot of man-in-the-middle attack, or creating fake registration portal or online registration portal, asking user to submit their true credentials, or you can even just act as a relay or proxy to sniff the user's connection. That's a very effective way of bypassing Wi-Fi encryption, because today, if you're talking about trying to crack WPA with AES encryption, it's very difficult. It's possible in the laboratory, but practically it's very hard. But with a man-in-the-middle or with a ROC AP attack, it's possible to intercept, or rather to hijack the user's connection so that you don't proxy the user traffic and sniff the traffic in clear text. Again, cracking AES is very difficult, or rather cracking WPA encrypted connection is very difficult. However, the enterprise-grade Wi-Fi solution, typically they will come built with wireless IPS or IDS, intrusion detection system. So they will be able to detect such ROC AP and send alerts to the administrator. So this kind of attack are already a very mature solution from the AP vendor to address this kind of attack. This top three has always been the major concern, or the major issue for Wi-Fi security, and the wireless vendor has invested a lot of R&D to address these three threats. That actually indirectly creates another problem to us, because we have WPA, we have wireless IPS. A lot of customers start to feel like now Wi-Fi is very secure. You start to take it for granted because it's just like part and parcel of life. Someone is taking care of it. Just like many customers who put a firewall in the network, then they think they have a firewall, they are already protected and they have nothing else to worry. But majority of the attacks are not because there's no firewall. And many of the time they have many firewalls, many layers of firewall, but it's due to other reasons like OS vulnerability or application vulnerability or misconfigurations. So similar like Wi-Fi, you have really good technology, WPA, wireless IPS, but then there are still other issues, that other possibility that you will be jeopardized. For example, network abuse. Network abuse is not really trying to sniff your information or is trying to steal your information. It's to make use of your network to do other illegal things. So this is a very interesting aspect when you talk to customer. I have customer tell me, say, now I don't host anything in my network, and I have most of our applications are in the cloud, and our Wi-Fi is just purely for internet browsing, and I have WPA to encrypt my connection. Most of our applications are HTTPS based anyway, so why do I have to worry so much? So the thing is, the network abuse, the attackers don't really try to steal your information anymore. They will make use of your network. So for example, they will piggyback to your connection to hack someone else because they're stealing your connection, and they will never be caught. And if investigation comes back, they will look for you. They will not look for the attacker, because the attacker is making use of your connection to hack other people. Even simple things like posting some illegal criminal message over the social media platform, the authority will come and say, okay, we detect someone originate from your network, and can you tell me who is this employee, one of your employees? Who is this employee? But it's not really your employee. It's just someone who abused your connection to do their illegal things, because they don't want to do it from their home, and they will not do it from their mobile device, which are all traceable. So making use of your connection, they get run away from it. And so there are several options to mitigate network abuse attacks. For example, you can put in MAC filtering to only make sure your own devices are allowed to connect to the Wi-Fi, or you can use one-time password, SMS OTP. SMS OTP is a very big thing right now, especially with the mobile payment proliferation. And also the mobile number now is tied on to the physical person, the IC or passport, in order for you to buy a SIM card. So it's traceable to the physical person. So OTP is a very, very secure option right now. So the other one is the .1x. So instead of using pre-shared key, for example, a lot of enterprise customers, by the way, are using pre-shared key for the Wi-Fi. So you use .1x, which have an external radio server where you can have an individual username and password for each connection. So instead of using a pre-shared key, you have an individual username and password, and everybody has to be accountable for keeping safe your own account. And also when it comes to investigation, you cannot deny, say, oh, okay, this is not from you because only you know your username and password. But of course, your account being hacked is another separate topic. There's several options in there, and connection hijacking is similar, or rather is part of the network abuse, but it's an easier approach. It's more dangerous. So for example, if someone within nearby your premise, they want to abuse or rather make use of your network to hack someone's website or do illegal things, or rather they just want to DDoS some remote location by utilizing your high-speed broadband. So they will leverage in one of your existing client or the existing user connection instead of trying to guess a brute force attack someone's username and password to get access to the Wi-Fi, or you're trying to guess fake some OTP or whatever to connect to the network. Instead, say they will just leverage on one of your existing client connection, spoof your IP and MAC address, then they will pretend to be one of your existing user to do the illegal things. And when the investigation come back, and that guy will be caught, but he's very innocent. So there are many tools to do connection hijacking, especially in the open Wi-Fi. You can scan through, can just do a scanning across all other connections, or even in a pre-shared key environment where organizations use pre-shared key. So connection hijacking is a very, very easy approach. It's very easy to hijack someone's connection, especially open Wi-Fi. There's a lot of script. I think I have several scripts myself. I used to be doing pen testing, by the way. If you do a Google search, there's some tools like Blacktrack or Kali Linux. They comes with a bunch of pen test tools already pre-built and configured for you. It's very easy to use. So one of the tools is to do connection hijacking. So they will scan through the entire wireless network. They would simply spoof to reconfigure his device to have the same MAC address and IP address and pretend to be one of your connection to do his illegal thing. That one is very, very, very difficult to trace. There are also solutions to address this, or rather mitigation method to address this. One of the very commonly known is a client isolation. So a lot of Wi-Fi solution today comes with client isolation feature. So client isolation basically prevents the Wi-Fi users who are connecting to the same AP to talk to each other. So that means if you're connecting to the same AP, you can only go out to your default gateway or to your internet. You cannot try to scan other devices connecting to the same AP because you can't scan other devices. So you will not be able to to fetch their MAC address and IP address, so you can't pretend to be there. So that's a pretty effective way, but there's drawback, which we'll talk about it later. The other common wireless attack is basically to make use of your device vulnerability, firmware issue, or configuration issue, or some of the default password or default SSID. Most of the enterprise now is engaged in specialized managed service provider who have the expertise and also proper SOP, like many of you here, to secure customers' environment, harden the configuration and all that. So that's pretty much more of an operational issue, and that can be addressed. What we are trying to address today is the common mitigations that have setbacks or rather have issues that are affecting users' experience or affecting the operational issues. So for example, we talk about the top 3 attacks, and there are already very mature technologies from the wireless vendor to address those kind of threats. The network abuse is quite a complex matter, and also there are several options available, and each one comes with pros and cons and also operational complexities. And especially like MAC filtering itself, you have to administer all the MAC address to manually, which is quite a pain. And the other one is the .1x. Some of the enterprise or government agency, they will have .1x proxy to an internal Active Directory and where the central user accounts are hosted. But then majority of the enterprise customers, they don't have AD anymore because everything is in the cloud. That's also a challenge. And also configuring .1x itself is not that easy. And the user device also needs support, have the WPA .1x supplicant to be able to use that feature. The other one is the client isolation. There's a lot of AP's client isolation feature today. They simply block off everything so that you can only go out to the internet. But then in the enterprise environment, you will normally have some local resource. For example, your printers, NAS, and some other conferencing systems. Many companies start to have its own apps, P2P apps for the employees. Instead of using like WhatsApp or some other social media apps, so they will have its own apps for internal communication, and many of them are P2P based. So if you block off everything, then you are basically unable to use those P2P apps. And also the client isolation technology itself has many different implementations. Different vendors do it in a different way. And a lot of them is only to isolate connections that are connecting to the same AP. So that means the users connecting to the same AP, they will not be able to talk to each other. But if it's across AP, which is very normal for a large enterprise with many AP, so the users connecting to other AP, to different AP, they are still able to communicate with each other. They are still able to hack to other people connecting to other APs. Some of the so-called high-end enterprise vendors have solutions to address that. But again, that solution also blocks off everything. That means you blocks off access to local resource or local P2P connections. So what we are going to offer is how to add value for this particular area in terms of preventing network abuse and preventing connection hijacking, to add value to existing mitigation options, which has its own pros and cons. So we can add value to do it in a simpler way and also more secure way. So we have the captive portal, which our HotSpot gateway has a local database. So you don't have to rely on existing third-party ADs or other reader system, third-party authentication server. And we also have the built-in captive portal, which comes with many different customization options, which allows you to configure or to design different user onboarding process. You can secure each connection, or rather you can make sure each connection is traceable, identifiable, and yet the user experience is not so bad. One of the very easy ways to have a portal with SMS OTP, for example. Users are very used to OTP. You just put in mobile number, get an OTP, then they get access. Their connection is authenticated. You don't need to rely on third-party ADs or authentication server. And if you want to make the user experience more seamless, you only require OTP once every 3 months or 6 months, depends on your security policy. The connection hijacking, rather, to address the existing client isolation problems. So we have a feature called dynamic VLAN assignment. So for each, we can have each individual connection instead of using client isolation, which partially works and which also blocks your access to other local resources. The dynamic VLAN basically creates an end-to-end layer 2 separation from the user device all the way up to your firewall or your internet router, even across the street, because we can trunk the VLAN across switch. One of the big challenge for many existing vendors who who are unable to isolate connections across AP is because it's easy to isolate connections connecting to the same AP. But across AP is because the connection will go bypass a switch. So once it goes over to the switch, and the switch basically allows any-to-any access, then that's where it causes a loophole. And some vendors have some proprietary ways to address that. But then again, that proprietary ways blocks off all other access. Brief highlight of how there are three major points that we can add value. One is about user onboarding with SMS OTP or email OTP that basically prevents network abuse, or rather make sure is legitimate connection. If you don't want to have captive portal because of SMS cost or because you want to have a seamless user experience, you can just be based on MAC address only. So all you need to do is to preload, import the list of your enterprise device MAC address. Then we will basically validate each connection based on the MAC address. And still, either whether you use SMS OTP or you use MAC filtering, you can group the device or group the user into different profiles. Then you can assign them into different VLAN upon connection. Client isolation is on an individual isolation base. So our dynamic VLAN, you can be an individual isolation base or it can be a group isolation base. So that means the same profile of user or the same profile of devices, you can put them into the same VLAN. So this is very powerful. Take hotel as an example. A lot of hotels today, they use open Wi-Fi, and which is a huge problem because even some of the 5-6-star hotels, it's open Wi-Fi. The customers coming here, they spend a lot of money, then using the internet, they are in a huge risk of being hacked by other guests within the premise or even people who are nearby here. Using dynamic VLAN is the guest, you have a room number and last name as your login credential. So once you log in, you will be in your own VLAN. Let's say if your room number is 202, then you will be allocated to VLAN 202. And if you have several devices, they can log in with the same user ID and they will all be in the same VLAN, completely separated from other guests. So each guest logging with the room number, they are in its own VLAN or isolated, and you can roam. When you go from upstairs, go to the restaurant or go to the open ground, you are always in your own VLAN and virtual network. So that carries your security everywhere you go across the entire network based on your user profile. So that's a very, very powerful feature for hotel. Majority of the hotel don't care, but some really good hotels, they care. So one way for them to isolate is they will put different access point for different rooms. And each access point, the switch port will provision to be in different VLAN. But the big problem with that is you can't roam. The user can go to another place. They are out of its own VLAN. So with this profile-based or identity-based VLAN assignment, you go anywhere as long as it's you and you are always in your own secure VLAN. So this is the snapshot of the registration portal or the user enrollment process for using SMS OTP. So again, if you want, there's two options for you to basically prevent network abuse or rather to make sure it's an authorized connection. One is user-based, another is device-based, or you can combine both. So user-based basically will have a captive portal. If device-based is just MAC address only. Again, captive portal is common. So what really makes us different is once you log into the captive portal and based on your user ID, we will reassign you to from an unsecure zone to secure zone. So when the user connect to the Wi-Fi, let's say whether it's a pre-shared key Wi-Fi or it's an open Wi-Fi, then you will have a landing page from you for user login, or depends on your onboarding process. You may ask them to register, or you just put in your mobile number. So let's say for enterprise, very simple, just mobile number. And you can preset this mobile number. That means only your staff, your own employee mobile number can be listed down there. And only this mobile number can actually require OTP. So that prevents outsider to have the possibility to self-register or enroll into your network. So once the user gets the OTP and authenticated, when you preset the user MAC address or preset the user's mobile number, then you can group them into different profiles. Or if you don't want to group them, then we will just dynamically allocate each connection to individual VLAN. Okay, one of the biggest questions is you're probably thinking in your mind is, we being the gateway, how do we actually force the user into different VLAN? We work with the AP. So through radius attributes or through a standard protocol, we inform the AP to say, okay, this user, please reassign this device into another VLAN based on his profile. So that actually certain ways eliminates some raw AP attack as well, because the AP has to talk with our HSG, or rather the AP has to be allowed Radius client with a pre-shared key with us. So if it is an outside AP or third-party AP, we will not be able to talk with us. So we will inform the AP to say, reassign this user to our secure zone or to its own VLAN. Whatever connection happens after that will be secured for this user. He will be in his own authorized secure virtual environment. So this is a snapshot of how the virtual allocation works. So you can have different devices, whether it's BYOD or VIP or internal PCs. Like some devices that don't support Capture Portal, you would just upload the MAC address, put them into a different profile, then they will be in its own VLAN. The device that supports Capture Portal, you can require them for OTP. If it's an internal stuff, for example, the mobile number is already preloaded. Every company will know its employee's mobile number. So you just need to simply import the mobile number into the system. That means it's an employee. The employee, you'll be automatically allocated to the employee VLAN or visitor, whether it depends on whether the company allows visitor access. If it does, then the visitor will be in a visitor VLAN automatically because this mobile number are not preloaded into the system. So this is very powerful. If you go to a lot of enterprise today, they will broadcast several SSID, one for internal staff, one for visitor, one for contractor, one for some other connections. It's very confusing which one to connect to. And that's also a huge problem when you go to anywhere. There's too many SSIDs because each company are broadcasting different SSID for different purpose. So with this, you just need to broadcast one SSID, and each one, upon connection, they will be allocated to its own secure VLAN based on the user profile. So you don't need to broadcast multiple SSID and each SSID mapped to each respective VLAN. The administrative work alone is already a massive job for the engineers or for the administrators. So with this, everything is simplified or configured under HSG based on the user profile. The connections are fully isolated between VLANs, or you can allow them to connect to across VLAN by configuring firewall rules here on the HSG. So that opens a lot of flexibility. Like remember, we talk about many other vendors who have absolute isolation between each connection, even across AP. But then if you want to allow them to connect across different VLAN or some P2P connections, it's very hard. It's almost impossible. Some vendor allows you to do like whitelist some MAC address or IP address, but you can't whitelist up to the application level, which we can do it from the HSG. We can open by a protocol and port number for you to route between VLANs for your internal applications. The control and granularity is there. We also keep a lot of very detailed access logs for auditing and traceability. So even for whatever reason, if someone does try to abuse your network connections, it's always traceable. Then when the authority comes, you can get all the details about that user, especially if you're using SMS OTP. He must have a valid mobile number to be able to connect to the network. Then that mobile number is traceable to the physical person. The summary of the enhanced mitigation, again, the wireless attacks, there's a whole list of potential wireless attacks. These are the top ones that we identify, and there are already many existing solutions that address some of the common attacks, and the ones that we are trying to address are related to preventing network abuse and also preventing connection hijacking. I think this is very, very important, and these are the areas that are still having some gaps or challenges for existing enterprise to secure this type of attacks. And we offer this in a very easy and secure way. I'll do a quick demo on how this works. So first, I'll just show a case where you have no security enforced yet. So I'll just turn off my Wi-Fi hotspot. Just going to turn off Wi-Fi service. It's just like a normal enterprise where you have just a router or firewall with DHCP and broadcasting a SSID. Okay, so this is my phone. So I'll turn off my mobile data. I've broadcast SSID called RansNet demo. So I'm connected. I'm actually in VLAN 60. That's my IP address. So I'm just going to have another device connect to it. And also I'm going to launch Wi-Fi scan. This is the other test phone connecting right now. When the new device trying to connect, the MAC address will be automatically registered. Okay, let me just try to show their connection. Because just now I changed from hotspot to non-hotspot. I need to restart my DHCP service. So I'm connected, I get DHCP IP address. Just to show you, I have two phones here. So just show what is the IP address. Okay, so they're all in the 16. That means by default, they are all in the same network. This is also a case where you probably have quarantine VLAN or for visitor, because these are unidentified device, because I didn't put them into the system yet. I haven't onboarded them into the system yet. So we are in the quarantine VLAN. So this will be just like the normal case where there's no security. So if you do a scan, you'll be able to scan all of them and they will be able to see each other. So maybe I can scan from this device. So once you scan, you can identify their IP address and MAC address. You just run a script to take over the connection. So that's very easy. So similarly, the other device, I can scan everyone else as well. What I'll do now is I will turn off the Wi-Fi for each one. I will enable a captive portal service to do an onboarding for everybody. I will assign each one of them to be in its own VLAN, and we will isolate each connection. So I'll just put in my mobile number. As an employee or enterprise, you will preload your staff mobile number so that you can identify whether it's visitor or is your own staff. Then you can put the staff into its own VLAN, or you can assign them to a profile. Let's say I'm just going to assign myself to be VLAN 101. So I will assign his phone to be another VLAN. Let's say another VLAN 102. I need to enable captive portal service. You can do it from command line or do it from UI. Let's say I just do it from UI. So instead of just a normal DHCP, I will enable a hotspot service. Save first. Then I will enable the dynamic VLAN. Okay, so if you enable from the UI, you see the command here. NAC. Okay, so that was a profile that says for non-authorized device, I will put them into this VLAN. Okay, I'm just going to start it. Check my Wi-Fi connection again. Okay, so straight away I have a captive portal come to me. That's my mobile number. We support many SMS gateways. For overseas, you can have your own in-country SMS gateway provider. So I'm connected for this device. I'm going to try with my son's device. And since we're waiting for his phone to launch properly, so you can see actually my phone now, just now was 16, the IP address, and now is 17. So it means I'm in his own VLAN. And also, if you double check my IP address, it's actually 17 range. Okay, 17255.254. So let me just log in. Okay, so if you check now, just now default I was in VLAN 100. And now I'm in VLAN 101. Okay, so because I'm getting this IP address, which is the same as what we're getting here. Okay, so basically dynamically based on user ID, I'm actually allocated to my own VLAN based on my. So let me get the other phone up first. Okay, the process is very smooth, as you can see from my own phone. You know, if the phone is slow, then we can't help much. So I have got the other phone logged in, which is here, okay, the other device. So I'm just going to do the scan again. And this time I can only see my own device and my own gateway. I can't see him anymore because he's in his own VLAN. He should be in, based on the profile setting, he's in VLAN 102. So as you can see, the scanning is still going on. I can't see him anymore. And now his IP address show up here, and this is his IP address. This is the other phone. It shows that our dynamic VLAN isolation works very well. Even if it is across the switch or across the network, you will not be able to scan each other anymore. See whether we can scan this device or not. If you can't scan him, you can't hijack his connection. Okay, so that's basically secures your connectivity. And also the system creates a very accurate mapping between your MAC address and your mobile number. There's a very accurate traceability, and also there's very detailed connection logs to show each of the connection when you log in with your mobile number, and after that it's just your device. So you can't run away, you can't deny that it's you that connecting to it, because only you can receive the SMS OTP. So that provides very solid traceability and also ensures only the right person can connect to it. You can have different login options. As you can see, the dynamic VLAN assignment is really assigned to the reader's profile. A different login method has different login profile, okay? So you can have, for example, the portal, you can have many login methods, different social media or different SMS registration options or email registration options. Then you assign them into different VLAN. On the reader's, or rather on the access profile, you just put them into different VLAN. It's very easy to do it. Okay, different signing option, and you use PIN or use an SMS OTP, it doesn't matter. If it is hotel, you just be room number and last name. Basically, you can assign the group to one profile. Let's say, like just now, for example, instead of assigning individual VLAN for each user mobile number, you can group them together. If you have a long list, you can do a mass update, assign them to, let's say, 103 or something like that. When they log in, they will be all in the same VLAN. So this is a very guaranteed kind of isolation because it goes from the AP, the trunk across the switch. The best thing about the switch is VLANs, right? So they will trunk all the VLANs across multiple switch all the way up to the firewall or router. When you say group VLAN, does it mean you want to allow access between VLANs or you want to bridge VLAN? There's two ideas to this. Remember, once you come to the VLAN here, it comes to our HSG firewall. So you can configure access lists or other firewall rules to permit the access between different VLANs. You can be very granular. You can have different protocol, port number, source, IP or destination IP port range. Just now in our demo, we show different VLAN has different IP address because it's easier for me to show because they are in different IP address scope. In a very large environment, especially if we want to go by per VLAN assignment, I mean per device per VLAN dynamically, it's not possible to provision like 2,000 different subnets. So what you do is you will still put them into different VLAN, but it will be under one bridge. That means one subnet. Users are still having the same subnet, rather getting IP address from the same subnet, but layer 2 level, they are still in different VLAN. They can't talk to each other, even they have the same subnet IP address, unless we allow again from the firewall side. The firewall rule gives you very granular control on what to permit and what not to permit, right? And it's very easy to do that. Thank you very much.